half of Gen Z want Britain to be ruled by ... a dictator. Most young people are in favour of turning the UK into a dictatorship, according to a deeply worrying study that has revealed an acceptance of authoritarianism and radicalism among Generation Z. More than half, that's 52% of Gen Z, aged between 13 and 27, said they thought the UK would be a better place if a strong leader was in charge, and this is the most important bit of the whole thing, who does not have to bother with Parliament and elections. A third also suggested the UK would be better off if the army was in charge. Almost half, 47%, agreed that the entire way our society is organised must be radically changed through revolution, compared with a third of 45 to 65-year-olds. Something's gone very seriously wrong if they really think it's a good idea to replace democracy with a dictatorship, hasn't it? What's gone wrong?
Oh, good afternoon, Vanessa. Yes, I mean, this came as a surprise to me. I'd like to reassure you and all your listeners that Generation Z, I'll call them Z if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
They have not lost their marbles. None of the young people we work with or we speak to, and none of them want to be bullied. Not any of them have ever said one about. So we've got to look, and that's what dictators are, and they're just bullies, aren't they? So we've got to look behind the stat here and think, well, what is going on in this? So I don't know how the questions are framed and that, but maybe the young people do want a sense of safety and clarity, and maybe there's something we're not quite providing for them at the moment.
What kind of clarity do they want, though? What is it that they're feeling so unsure of, that they would like a dictator to confirm, do you think? What are they lacking in terms of clarity and or safety?
Well, if you look at how you grow up, like as a very young child, you're just a bit of a sponge, really, and you just accept what your mum tells you and your dad tells you and your parents and things. But then when you get to them teenage years, you start getting a little bit more unsure. And these young people, more than ever, have issues to deal with, like on social media and that. They're looking for someone to give them some. If you were in a burning building and someone ran up to you and said, I'm really confident, I know the way out, I can get you out of this building, follow me, then you're probably going to follow them. And that's what we're seeing in people like, Andrew Tate and dictators. And I'd also at some level say like the likes of Alan Sugar and Gordon Ramsay, these television characters.
Alan Sugar and Gordon Ramsay spoken about in the same terms as Andrew Tate and dictators. I think they have issue to take issue with you and be extremely indignant about that. Why have you put them in the same category, for goodness sake?
I just think they offer a form of masculinity. I mean, when we're talking about dictators, we're usually talking about men, aren't we? And we're offering, this like 100% self-assuredness and that, and life's often a grey area, isn't it, where we have to pick our way through it. And at the moment,
but Gordon Ramsay's telling you how to cook a lamb chop. He's not telling you what to do with your life, and that you may not leave the house after 7 o'clock at night, and that you may not access various things because of who you are. He's just saying, to use a white tablecloth and make sure you give the crepe Suzette a good turnover, isn't he? I mean, I don't think he qualifies.
Well, it's his manner. It's his manner which I'm referring to. I don't want to get sorry, Gordon, if you're listening.
Yeah, say sorry to Gordon and Alan Sugar. It's not Alan Sugar's fault.
Sorry, Alan. But my point is that in young people's lives, they need adults who can help them pick through and form their beliefs and values and their actions. And if we don't provide them with that, and parents have a multiple role, don't they? Schools have a role helping young people to develop their skills and knowledge. But where are young people getting the opportunity to develop their character right now? We've lost 75% of youth services. And for me, that's the third leg of the stool, to education, parents, but also what happens, where do young people get the opportunity to debate and to look at, question stuff on the internet? That critical thinking is essential as we go forward now. People are going to have more access to more information. You're going to get people who are really confidently telling them, can we help young people to be critical thinkers, please? Can we do that with youth work and youth services? I know Lisa Nandy's called for a review of that, and I think it's absolutely essential, Vanessa.
Well, when you say how do we help when we need to help young people to be critical thinkers, what does that mean? I thought that was exactly what happens when, for example, in the old days, you take your history O-level, or these days your GCSE in history. That's when you look at what regimes have done or what dictators or politicians have passed, and you discuss in class and you write your essay for homework, and then you do it again in the exam at the end of the year. Whether it was a good idea, whether it was a bad idea, which of the philosophies that have failed, which are the empires that crashed, which are the ones that flourished, whether anything flourishes permanently, all that sort of thing. That's critical thinking, isn't it? Aren't you meant to do that at school, partly? And then, of course, when you get home, and of course, you're not looking at your phone, you're sitting there with your two charming and articulate parents, which most people don't have, around the kitchen table or dining room table, which most people no longer have, having a conversation, which most people no longer have, about whatever it was you learned at school, so that you can develop an ability to have some kind of analytical thinking. I mean, isn't that supposed to be partly provided at school and partly at home?
Definitely, and some people do that really excellently. But there's the people who do that are our secret weapon in this country are youth workers who are out there every day being kind in society, helping young people to pick through moral dilemmas that they are facing, and doing it without polluting them with their own views and own agendas. Where young people are getting a lot of influence from now is the internet, and people go on the internet not to do critical thinking, not to ask questions, but to put views across. And this is why they're saying, all right, this person seems so confident. I'd like to emulate them. I'd like a really confident person running the country who doesn't have to bother with Parliament. But actually, there's a real value in seeking other people's opinions and asking questions. I mean, like the one I put you then, honesty and loyalty. Loyalty can often get young people into a lot of trouble, and it's like youth workers are out there talking to them and getting them to pick through these things, which can really help them. But unfortunately, we've lost 75% of our youth workers over the last 10 years. You can't take that out of society and not feel the pain.
Very good point. Adam, hello. Thanks so much for calling. Really pleased to hear from you. Hi. What do you think? What do you think? Yeah, I'm okay. What do you think they misunderstand here, if you think they misunderstand?
So I came from a country ruled by a dictator. Originally, I'm from Syria. I've been living in the UK for the past 12 years.
Yes.
So I think what's happening at the moment with Gen Z is they've been misled by a lot of politicians who use their vote and their ideas to actually for political gains. While some of them, they look at in some countries ruled by dictators and they look, this dictator is firm with some of their decisions and things they do for countries, which is, I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but I think from their eyes, I don't know how they see it. Maybe they think this is a good thing, and then, especially now with Trump come to power, he's very controversial and very in a way of how he's taking decisions. Maybe that's obviously misleading the
yes, although obviously, democratic elections in the United States of America, possibility that he wasn't going to be elected. But tell me about your experience of life under President Assad, I'm assuming, in Syria. How your life really was, because this could be quite valuable. It's the sort of thing that parents could repeat to their kids when they come out of school today. They could say they were listening to LBC, they heard you speaking, you described what life under a dictator is like. Tell me what it was like, what sorts of things you couldn't do, how it imposed on you.
But obviously it's not a good thing at all, because you've grown up having fears of speaking up, saying your views on things, and obviously you get done for if you say something that you might not like. Yeah. And obviously because of that, a lot of people in our region have obviously been ruled in the same way for 30, 40, 50 years, like Assad regimes. Obviously that affects young generation of kind of speaking up and trying to help to build the country, which is in the Middle East, especially in Syria. It's very educated people, people who's all got degrees and things, but because sometimes you can't say what you think, obviously you can't give more to the country. So that's it's not a good thing at all.
When you escaped to come here, what did you feel about life here in a democracy improved your experience of living? What was better for you being in a democracy than in a dictatorship?
No, obviously, I felt like free in a way. Like, you could freedom of speech, and then obviously, if you have an opinion, you're entitled to have an opinion without getting judged, whatever it is, whether with or against the government or against any political party, for example. So, but at the moment, living in this nowadays. I think the internet have a big, massive effect on the Gen Z.
Evidently,
where they can
yes.
they can go on social media and see some misleading news or misleading sites that actually could put some ideas in their brains that saying, you know what, this is what some countries should be led by dictator or by not. So what I think is, from the country, like I've been living here for the past 12 years. Obviously, I can't say that. I can't say how thankful I am to be part of this community, to be British, and I'm so proud to be British now. And I hold that for this country that gave me the opportunity to have a safe place to live. Kind of give back to the country that working, having some experiences, and then obviously give something back.
Well, I'm very pleased to have be able to give you the opportunity on LBC to say that, and thank you so much. I really appreciate the call. Thank you very much, Adam, who did live under a dictator in Syria and is much happier in Manchester. Let's talk to Toby in Bristol. Hi, Toby.
Hello. Just referring back to what you said in your previous caller, I think education is a huge element of it. I'm a primary school teacher, and having seen what's happened to the curriculum over the last 14 years, it really is clear that it's this element of speaking, listening, and being educated about the democracy we live in has been completely removed.
Tell me what it was like before that, sir. So before it was removed, what sorts of elements were in the timetable or were available to teachers to explain concepts like democracy or what a dictator is or how important it is to have a vote, that kind of thing? What was available then that is no longer available?
You did have political studies, but also as part of sort of the PSHE curriculum, you had elements of that were going on.
Yeah.
But what you've now got is a group of children who've grown up with absolutely no input whatsoever. And surprise, when populist people, like Andrew Tate, like Trump, say, I've got an easy answer for your really difficult problem, people will gravitate. My family, and on especially today is Holocaust Memorial Day, my family escaped from Germany. My father was kinderstransport, and they lived under a democracy, and most of my family were murdered.
Let me just ask you something, Toby, while you're on the phone, while you're on the line. Obviously, to me, I know just exactly what kindertransport was. There might be people listening who don't know, and for that reason, because it's Holocaust Memorial Day, would you be kind enough just to explain what kindertransport was?
I'm very happy to. My father was 13 when the war started. He was born in Essen, was a member of a successful family, and he was put on one of the last kindertransport trains, which was the chance for children to be removed from Germany before the borders were closed. And what we haven't said is the
word Jewish. You haven't said my father was born into a Jewish family in Essen, and you haven't said that he was put on this train, this kindertransport train. Kinder means children. It was a way of getting the children, just some children, out before their parents were sent to concentration camps and pretty much to their certain death. And when the parents put them on the trains, they knew that they may never see their children again, didn't they? The pain of that must have been extraordinary.
That's absolutely right. And one of the things that many people won't realise is that because these secret police were on the platforms, the parents were not allowed to show any emotion to their children leaving. They just had to put them on the train and let them go. My grandfather, Max, was sent to Regensstadt and didn't survive. And it's very easy, I think, now to forget how destructive dictators can be. They sound very plausible, they sound very attractive, but like the poem says, they leave the people that are the most like themselves until they come for them. And we've seen that in South America. We've seen that all over Europe, where you have people who offer simple solutions to very difficult issues.
Do you think then, Toby, as a primary school educator, as the child of a kindertransport father, do you think that what we need is something to be incorporated into the curriculum, whether it's by head teachers at assembly or whether it's a special seminar that every child goes through at break time or something or other, where the essence of what a democracy is, what a dictator is discussed and debated, and so we know that our children at least understand what they're talking about when they answer a question like this.
It's desperately needed. I mean, it's part of the reason to pull everyone's favourite elephant to run back in Brexit happened is because no one understood what they were being asked. They were asked a simple question to a really difficult situation, and because nobody understood, because nobody had bothered to teach our children and adults what the EU was about, it was then quite easy to emotively create that sort of desire to potentially leave. And yes, desperately, yes, we need education on this front. And I think that the one-off approach is not enough. It needs to be structured. We're seeing a massive decline in voter turnout. I think it was 60%, around the 60% mark for our general election.
Let's talk to Ronan, who's on the line in Brighton. Hi, Ronan, you're 23. You're right in the middle of this Gen Z. So tell me about the finding that half of Gen Z want Britain to be ruled by a dictator.
Yes, indeed. I mean, I think that study in itself can be taken a bit out of context. I mean, from my personal experience,
yes,
whether you're in university spaces, college spaces, debating societies, political societies, you know, the young people are kind of world leading in challenging these ideas in terms of democracy. It was instilled inside of me as something that was absolutely paramount to our progression and to our success. And when you look at these world issues like climate change and you know, who's leading, who's on the front line dealing with those issues? When you look at
and what's the answer? Not dictators, surely.
No, of course not. No, it's totally not the answer. And I feel like that can be taken out of context. I just feel like my personal experience is something very different to maybe what's going on. I feel like it's not so much the IQs. I feel like maybe with certain issues around, you know, the housing crisis and the opportunities available and things like that, people may feel a bit disgruntled and upset, and you know, when they're doing a survey in a specific place in a specific time, may put down an answer. But I think when it comes down to practicalities, I really do not think it's something that the future generations need to worry about.
I mean, do you have friends? You're 23. Do you have friends, do you think, who if asked would say, oh, I'd much rather live in a dictatorship than a democracy. I'd much rather have a strong leader who didn't have to be bothered with all that, you know, faff of going through parliament and voting. You know, who needs that? Much better to just have somebody strong who knows what they want. Would any of your friends think that, do you think?
No, not at all. I've got a wide array of friends. I've also lived in New Zealand, Australia, and you know, I've lived in America. You know, lots of everywhere I've been and everywhere I go, people all are kind of aligned, and that may be the people that I'm drawn to.
Yeah.
But these are the people that tend to be quite educated, and probably people that will be in charge of the institutions that exist within our societies. And I feel like there is no hint at all that a dictatorship would be anything towards my generation would be leaning to in any way, shape,
so
or
even
form.
though this is front page of the Times and meant to be a study of some, gravitas, you think it's nothing to worry about at all? You wouldn't take it seriously?
Yeah, I think 3,000 people in a certain, you know, I haven't seen the study myself, so I can't speak. But where was it conducted? Was it, you know, how many people did it? You know, where did these people live? Where did they come from?
Hello, Rose.
Hello, Vanessa.
Hi. Tell me what's happened here, do you think?
I will in a sec.
Oh, go on. Good.
We nearly had a dictator. If Hitler had succeeded in invading, all the Jewish girls at my school would never have been born. Their parents would have been killed. And what I think is happening now, one of the things that's happening is almost the groundwork's being laid, because people are being made addicted to online, and they're isolated, and they're not all people, obviously, but an awful lot, and not, I understand, bonding deeply with other people. And I have a passage here, very short, by C.S. Lewis. It must have been written in the 50s, because he died in 63.
Yes.
If our rulers ever succeed in creating a world where all our acquaintances and none are friends, that's the difference, meeting, bonding, your real self coming through, they will have taken from us almost our strongest safeguard against complete servitude. Because of the thing, this is me now, about meeting other people properly, is that you then have, and Lewis says this earlier in the passage, you then are able to counteract the media messages that are being hurled at you all the time. You're not just, putty in people's hands. And I'd like to say also, I've got something about my mum in a sec if I've got time, but yes. Nobody sane wants power over a nation because they know perfectly well that they're not all in all to everybody, and it would be far too great a responsibility.
Yes.
The people who seek it are fixated. They're compulsively seeking power for deep needs of their own, and there's no end to it. They will get more and more, and, you will just have no freedom at all. And I just think a lot of people now are just seeing life reflected rather than actually interacting with real life. So they have no sense of deep self. And finally, thank you for letting me speak.
It's a pleasure.
My mother was
I want to listen to you speak. It's interesting.
Bless you, darling. My mother was a nurse in the mid-30s.
Yeah.
There was a little boy on the ward whose arm was up in a splint in a Heil Hitler salute by mistake, obviously.
Yeah.
And the nurse said, "Oh, Heil Hitler," when he was a baby, because at that point it was funny. Mum said we didn't take him seriously. We'd see the newsreels, and there he was going, "Heil Hitler," goose-stepping. It was funny. And this is how it happens. It just creeps up. And so your thoughts on young people saying, "Oh yes, we'd rather have a dictator. At least they'd be strong. At least they wouldn't waste time. At least we'd all know what we were doing." What would you say in response to that? I'd say they're online too much. I'd say they're not being properly educated. All this history should be told, and that it's a cop-out. You want to be told what to do? I know, what an extraordinary choice to make, isn't it? When you're still empowered to make a choice, and your choice is, I'd like to be deprived of choice. Absolutely ridiculous. Yes. Thank you, Rose. Excellent to hear from you, and thank you for reading that to us. Let's talk to Malik, first-time caller in Swansea. Welcome. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi there. Hi. What I would like to say, I would like to address the Gen Z or half of Gen Z who would like to opt for dictatorship.
Yes.
Because of the fairness or strictness of the dictator or of the leader, which is obviously attracted to them. But I would like to say, when you opt for a dictatorship, you need to consider the other aspects of the dictatorship. Dictatorship comes with strings attached, comes with other features. And here are some of the other features that come with the dictatorship.
Good. Give me a list. Go on.
Sorry?
Give me a list of the things that you come with the dictatorship. Go on.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not only the fairness of the dictator. Number one, you have corruption. So if you opt for a dictatorship, you need to live in a corrupt society. And number two, you have, I'll explain these. I'll talk a little bit about each of them. But you have the corruption, you have the nepotism and the cronyism, because if you are a dictator, you rule the whole country with a group of people and you give them privileges. So you need to be prepared, if you live in a dictatorship, to have this group of people or these people having advantages over everyone in the society. And the number three is you also mentioned something about the army, that these Gen Z people would like the army to rule the country. And here's what comes with that. When the army, under a dictatorship, rules the country, that means that the army stops to be a national army or an army to protect the country. It turns into a tool to protect the dictator himself and his power and his position. And if the dictator goes, the army will go. And the good example is Syria. Look at Syria. When the dictator Assad goes, in like just a few hours, the whole army evaporated.